Can we just get within stocks just a little bit more, away from AI and away from weight loss? What is it you do like? Is this a broad, equal weight S&P 500 story? What is
good question, John. So I have to manage against a global index, the Morgan Stanley All Country World Index. So in that world, we have about a 6% overweight to stocks. So in a 60-40 type portfolio, that's a 66% allocation to stocks. 2/3 of that overweight are in the U.S., S&P. Okay? And then the balance of that, we have an overweight to developed non-US. So we do like the European story. We mentioned a couple of those themes. We do like Japan, and then we're neutral emerging markets. Quietly, emerging markets are making a little bit of a comeback. Not necessarily willing to go overweight yet because we like the US and the developed non-US story a little bit more, but we would not be underweight emerging markets here.
Is that a China factor in EM that holds you back a little bit?
Yeah, so it certainly is. So there's a amount of confidence that we cannot get to yet with emerging markets driven by the China story that we can get to in the U.S. and non-U.S. markets.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
Over the weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. It's fine. It's fine and dandy, as Stuart Kaiser would say. Here's the issue, right? A lot of people have been talking about emerging markets as part of this reflation trade, and the commodity sector is part of that too.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting is where are the limits to this, where suddenly this becomes a problem, right? Where the reflation trade, I know I'm always looking for the problems, but I guess that's what people do. But I'm just wondering, at what point do you start seeing some of the increase in commodity prices as a headwind, especially if you are worried about some of the strength being a little bit too strong and you are worried about the idea of inflation rearing again? Yeah,
so Lisa, there's like a line in the sand, and most people think it's $100 oil or something like that, that we would start to think that would be kind of like a tax. Whereas, we have a long way to go to get there, but also in emerging markets, they've been so beat up and so left behind that any reflation right now is good for that market. But there is a point, obviously, right, where the commodity story then becomes the tax. We're not close to that yet, and there's two things that look cheap. One of them is emerging markets, the other one is small cap. We don't want to be underweight either of those, but small cap, I think you would really need to see multiple Federal Reserve cuts with above trend growth, which is not our view. So we'd rather be overweight large cap versus small cap.